Trump says he asked Apple CEO Tim Cook not to build factories in India unless it's for the local market. Former Pentagon official Michael Rubin says Pakistan went for ceasefire like a scared dog with its tail between its legs. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh visited Badami Cantonment in Srinagar to meet the troops. Operation Sindoor was a fallout of Pahalgam terror attack, and since then security and anti-terror operations have been stepped up in the entire Kashmir. Rajnath Singh used his visit to reinforce the new normal with Pakistan. He called Pakistan a rogue state and urged the nuclear watchdog, International Atomic Energy Agency, to take charge of Pakistan's nuclear weapons, suggesting that Pakistan cannot be trusted with nuclear weapons and its political structure is unstable and infested with jihadis.
आज आतंकवाद के खिलाफ भारत की प्रतिज्ञा कितनी कठोर है इसका पता इसी बात से चलता है कि हमने उनके न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल की भी परवाह नहीं की है। पूरी दुनिया ने देखा है कि कैसे गैर जिम्मेदाराना तरीके से पाकिस्तान द्वारा भारत को अनेक बार एटमी धमकियां दी गई हैं। आज श्रीनगर की धरती से मैं पूरी दुनिया के सामने यह सवाल उठाना चाहता हूं कि क्या ऐसे गैर जिम्मेदार और रोग नेशन के हाथों में परमाणु हथियार सुरक्षित हैं? मैं दुनिया के सामने यह सवाल खड़ा करना चाहता हूं। मैं मानता हूं कि पाकिस्तान के एटमी हथियारों को IAEA इंटरनेशनल एटॉमिक एनर्जी एजेंसी की निगरानी में लिया जाना चाहिए। मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा और साफ तौर पर कहना चाहूंगा।
He also took stock of the security situation, especially along the LOC and international border. This point was reinforced by the External Affairs Minister Jay Shanker, who said that they will only engage Pakistan one-to-one, and that too on the issue of terror. He also said that they will also talk about Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir.
Sometimes the Kashmir issue has been brought up. Again, the only thing which remains to be discussed on Kashmir is the vacation of illegally occupied Indian territory in Pakistan occupied Kashmir. We are open to discussing that with Pakistan.
Now let me straight away go to Harshvi Pant, Professor International Relations at King's College London and Vice President Studies in Foreign Policy at the Observer Research Foundation. So thank you so much for joining me. And let me ask you, isn't this double whammy, Mr. Pant, that Pakistan can behave like an irrational state whenever it wants to, and Pakistan can also use it as an alibi that in case there's a problem with us, then there is no custodian of these bombs. You know, it'll go to the jihadis.
Indeed, and I think Pakistan has played this card for far too long and to the discomfiture of India as well as international community. And I think what we are now seeing, that chickens are coming home to roost, because increasingly the world has gotten wary of this argument. And of course, India has demonstrated that it is quite capable of conducting military operations below the threshold of nuclear weapons, and signaled with its recent strikes that it is capable of striking deep inside Pakistan on key strategic targets. So I think by and large what we are witnessing is a shift both in terms of India's ability and India's willingness to engage Pakistan militarily or kinetically on the battlefield below the threshold of nuclear weapons, but also India pushing this idea that, look, this argument cannot be sustained. As you are saying, it's a two-faced argument. It's an argument that Pakistan has made to showcase its vulnerability, at the same time to showcase how its perceived strength. So it cannot be both ways. Either Pakistan is strong enough to take care of its own military infrastructure and think rationally about nuclear weapons, or is it too weak and too rogue a nation that cannot be trusted with nuclear weapons? And I think that's what we are now increasingly witnessing in the global debate. And as far as India is concerned, we are also taking these steps to ensure that not only we are able to target Pakistan directly, but also tell the story to the wider world that really the nuclear blackmail that Pakistan has been indulging in cannot be sustained for far too long.
Mr. Pant, in the broader sense of the word, is LOC as border something which Musharraf, Manmohan Singh and other people tried to work is dead?
I think so. I think that argument that, look, ultimately this is the only rationale available for India to engage with Pakistan on because of the circumstances. I think that argument is gone now, because certainly the broader picture that has emerged from India's policy options, both what India has done after the abrogation of Article 370 and also with militarily increasingly telling the world that, look, the only thing to be discussed with Pakistan is Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So I think the larger reality that Pakistan today faces is that the older paradigm, which many in India and many in Pakistan worked hard to build, is dead, and it's dead because of Pakistan's own actions. And I think that is something that Pakistan needs to come to terms with, that today it is in a vulnerable situation. Today it is in a situation of extreme weakness, and today it can't even go to that extent which at one point Pakistani leaders were pushing India to do. And many in India were willing to take that option seriously. But today the realities have changed, and I think India's ability to shape Pakistani's realities have changed significantly. And I think that's what matters on the ground, and on the ground realities look very different today.
Mr. Pant, Pakistan's nuclear program has a tainted past. A.Q. Khan was involved in smuggling, providing technology to rogue regimes like North Korea, Libya. Even then Pakistan got away, which is also very strange that the global superpowers talk about policing these technologies, but they conveniently allow Pakistan to sell it to whoever they wanted to.
Absolutely. And that is the irony of the whole situation, that now when the West screams about nuclear conflagration in South Asia, they should realize their own complicity and double standards. And India was pointing it out from the very beginning that, look, the custodians of the global nuclear order, and in particular when you think of US and China, they have been responsible in giving Pakistan this nuclear capability, in shielding Pakistan from international pressure, because Pakistan was a useful conduit nation during the Cold War. America felt that this is something that Pakistan was needed, first in the opening to China, then in the Afghan Mujahideen and their training and their jihad that went on to push the Soviet Union out of Afghanistan. And there Pakistan continued to develop a capability that everyone from the very beginning was worried that it could not be trusted because of the peculiar civil military engagement there, because of the groups that litter in Pakistan as far as terrorism is concerned. And therefore, to allow such a nation to get hold of nuclear weapons has shown that the international community was never serious about nuclear proliferation. And as we move towards more nations thinking about nuclear weapons today, from North Korea to the Iranians, I think the real culprit here is really the West, the US and China, that allowed, even despite having the NPT framework available, to get Pakistan get away scot-free. And we continue to see that pattern till very recently. It was only when India started making a hue and cry about this problem that this idea of Pakistan as a rogue nation came to the center stage. And I think India has done a very good job in globally marginalizing Pakistan on the issue of terrorism and linking it up with Pakistan's nuclear capability. And the more Pakistan behaves irrationally the way it has done in recent past, the more visible this challenge becomes to the world. And I think there India certainly has a great role to play in mobilizing global opinion.
Professor Pant, how big is the issue of reverse indoctrination of the Pakistani army in context of the safety of the nuclear weapons? If you recall years ago, the attack in Karachi, where the terrorists ended up blowing up PC-3 Orion aircraft, $1 billion aircraft, showed that the sons and the daughters and the retired Air Force officers were involved in opening up the base. Reverse indoctrination. So in the case of the safety of the nuclear weapon, how big is this issue?
Very, very serious. And I think for a very long time, the world and perhaps also sections of in India lived under this delusion that somehow ultimately Pakistan can be many things, that Pakistan is not suicidal. So therefore the mutual assured destruction framework will work, and mutual deterrence would work in the context of India-Pakistan, but also in the context of inducing the threat of the costs in Pakistan. And I think that problem we have seen that situation does not exist in Pakistan anymore. As you are saying, the reverse indoctrination, the radicalization of the rank and file of Pakistani military and sections of Pakistani society have been quite dramatic over the last few years. And I think that is the reason why we continue to see a degree of uneasiness even within the Pakistani military establishment. I mean, you just have to look at General Asim Munir's comments in recent times, where his vision of India-Pakistan relationship harks back to the two-nation theory, harks back to the Hindu and Muslim civilizational differences, which I think is a sample of how the Pakistani military's rank and file is increasingly now looking at the world, increasingly looking at its capabilities and how they would use it if the time comes. And I think that's the challenge that the world needs to work towards and try to find some resolution. And I think what our Raksha Mantri said today, that look, ultimately should IAEA take over responsibility. It's rhetorical in some ways. It's very difficult, and I don't think IAEA neither has the capability nor there is enough consensus to ensure that happens. But I think the point that he was trying to make was that increasingly you cannot trust the rank and file of Pakistani military to behave in a rational manner when it comes to weapons as significant as nukes, whose impact will be felt not simply in the subcontinent but across the world. And therefore a rethink is needed because of the peculiar circumstances within Pakistan that have emerged over the last few decades.
Isn't this an irony? That was my first question, Professor, that they have weaponized their irrationality in context of India, and they have weaponized their weakness in terms of command and control structure to the larger West, that if we are not there, then they're going to fall into the wrong hands. Hands that is sustained by the same structure, fed by the same structure.
Yes, I think Pakistan has done this very in a manner that is, the hypocrisy of this is quite evident now. And I think that's the reason why you see, a lot of the arguments that Pakistan today makes do not, cut much ice. But I think from a larger vantage point, you also look at a country that is now being reduced to making these kind of arguments, that because they don't have a more rational, bigger argument to make, they continue to say that, look, ultimately you have to protect us because there is always a danger of these nukes falling into wrong hands. And again, as you say, those wrong hands are the ones that are sustained by the Pakistani establishment. So I think this two-phased approach to nuclear weapons, to their security and to regional security is something that is now coming to bite them. And I think India has played it very well by showcasing to the world that ultimately it is Pakistan's responsibility when it comes to de-escalation, when it comes to stability in the region. It is not the case that a victimized Pakistan will cry wolf every time India responds. And I think this is really the message of Operation Sindoor, where India has pushed back against this argument and shown to the world what potentially India can do without taking into account the nuclear dimension. So I think the nuclear blackmail, as Prime Minister has said, as Defense Minister has said, is now almost redundant in the larger scheme of things. But Pakistan will continue to use this because that's the only thing now left with Pakistan.
Okay, and the last question to you, sir. Will India ever in future, in your opinion, change the doctrine of no first use because the Pakistan has a first use doctrine? Will that change?
I think there is a lot of discussion in India on this, but my own sense is that India has a lot of a global role as well to play. And my own sense is that India will continue to see how far it can go with its conventional capability. Because ultimately, if you see in Operation Sindoor as well, India demonstrated that its conventional capability is enough to deter Pakistan's nuclear adventurism. And I think that India will continue to engage with that argument for as long as possible and would try not to dilute its no first use commitment, because by and large, India has been seen as a responsible nuclear actor on the global stage, and that contrasts with the irresponsible behavior of Pakistan, and that has given India an upper hand when it comes to global diplomacy, something that India would not want to lose at this juncture.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for joining me. Let me go across to my two other esteemed guests who have been waiting. Group Captain V.N. Jha, former Joint Director DRDO, and Air Marshal VPS Rana, Defence and Strategy Expert. Sir, thank you so much. But straight away, my question to Mr. Rana, Air Marshal Rana. Sir, what does Rajnath Singh visit mean to us? And his speech, please decode.
Thank you, Kartikeya. I think Harsh, panned out the discussion very, very well. He, talked about the entire this thing in the nuclear threshold. But coming to specifically to Defence Minister's visit, I think he did not only called out the nuclear bogey of Pakistan, but I think he called out the nuclear bogey of the West as well. Because it's not that the world does not know what Pakistan has done towards the proliferation of these technologies, and it is not that the world is unaware that what kind of a responsible behavior Pakistan has been doing as far as the handling of the nuclear material or the nuclear arms. Terrorism is a stated policy, and terrorists are their weapons. And, increasing radicalization of the military that we have seen over the years of the military cadre is really, really worrying. And on top of that, once you have somebody like Munir at the top of this establishment, I think then the confidence sets up that there will be any responsibility shown towards utilization of these weapons. So I think it was very, very clear. It was a good opportunity, and I think we made a very good use of it to call out the bogey of the nuclear threat by striking them hard, striking them precisely, and indicating to the world that need be we can do much more.
Okay. So
I agree with Harsh in that context that even with the conventional weapons, we were able to convey our message that listen, here and after we will not be bothered about your nuclear threat, and we will take on irrespective.
Let me go across to Group Captain Jha. Sir, do you think like Israelis, and this is a sort of a comparative question, sir, as they say, will India, like Israel, now need to mow the lawn every 5 years in form of Operation Sindoor?
Kartikeya, I have slightly different take on all this. If you permit me, I would just like to say a couple of sentences what we have just now discussed. I think as far as the nuclear weapon is concerned, India has to review its doctrine. These are the issues usually not discussed on the television. But then the government has got a very firm resolve of doing the things the way it wants. Suppose just radical state or the rabid-looking Pakistan, lives or
to clarify for the viewers, are you talking about the no first use, sir?
Yeah, launches one strike. What happens? One of our city, it may be intercepted in air, that is another thing, but suppose if it falls, one of our city is gone, 5 to 10 lakhs of the civilian populations who are there are at very high stake. And what do? How do we react? Do we have a policy? Because by the time you start thinking of reacting, the entire international community, including UN, will be on your head. Please show restraint, please show restraint, please show restraint. So, by space, that content, that our retaliation, second use, will be disproportionate, and Pakistan will not see the next day. It is just on the paper. We don't have we don't have that doctrine in place should that attack happen. And if I am the Prime Minister, if I am knocked out, what do the hierarchy do? They huddle into another CCD meeting? No, that should not be the case. There should be a policy in place which gives a clear indication to the rogue state that should you get onto this, you will not be on the map of the world next morning, and very clear cut. And when you stand like a mountain, the wind changes its direction. All these rogue statements that are coming from the different politicians or military, this will stop changing. The moment they realize that India has got a credible approach, SOP, which of course we will not discuss here, then that type of statement what is coming will change. That is first thing. Secondly, whenever you are talking of, taking the matter at UN or something, look, whatever we want UN to take notice of, say Pakistan, a rogue state, it is not capable of holding a nuclear weapon. What have we done? Have we walked even a single step in that direction to tell UN that this is the path that you should maintain? I'm surprised why there is no single attempt to label Pakistan a rogue state, label Pakistan a terror sponsoring state till now. Of course, India is taking, lot of steps, but when it comes to paper, these are the steps what is missing right now. Harsha was speaking right now. I saw his designation that he is vice president of some foreign expert. Do we have a parliamentary committee on foreign experts who can continue reviewing the friendly and rogue nations or the enemy nations, four nations from time to time, properly discuss in the parliament?
Standing committee on defense, sir. We have a standing committee on defense. We have a standing committee on foreign affairs.
No, I'm not talking of the standing committee. I'm talking of parliamentary committee on the external affairs, which can talk the things happening of the current affairs at any given time, anywhere in the world. If it is against you, if there is a democracy, say a war on democracy, or if there is the human rights violations, you can discuss here in our own parliament. Do we have? No, we don't have. So what happens when European Parliament takes up a issue, you keep on rounding in and around them, and when US has the similar discussion in their Parliament or in their Congress,
you made a very important point. I think I should take this point to Ambassador Sikri. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being part of my show. I started my conversation with Rajnath Singh, his visit, and the whole issue of Pakistan using his irrationality as a weapon. I am irrational. I don't trust my behavior. I can use my bomb against India. And if you go against the same army, they would say, if I am not there, then these weapons are going to go into the hands of the jihadis. So chit bhi main jeetu aur pat bhi aap aa rahe hain, that sort of a thing. But in that course of conversation, there came a point where I asked my previous commentator, has the time come to change no first use doctrine? The first doctrine was conceived at a particular point of time. Do you think that this doctrine requires some sort of a revision, madam?
Look, I think in the case of countries who possess nuclear weapons, the biggest factor should be to ensure restraint all around. And I think with Pakistan, the biggest worry is, A, they don't have a non-first use of nuclear weapons doctrine, not at all. And secondly, as we have seen with the terrorist attack on innocent tourists in Pahalgam on April 22nd, and, and subsequently, of course, India took action on that. And on 7th of May, we attacked the terrorist headquarters. But it's amazing to see that these terrorist headquarters are located in places in Pakistan in open sight, cheek by jowl with, army formations or civilian groups in towns, big cities, and there is no control. So the potential for army weapons for nuclear weapons to fall into the wrong hands in Pakistan is ipso facto very high. In fact, if you know, I don't know if you know, but we know that in the middle of all these events, the IMF issued a special $2 billion tranche to Pakistan. And what do we hear? That the first thing that's happened is that the losses of Masood Azhar, as the terrorist leader in Pakistan, his family, 10 members and close aides he's getting a 14 crore grant as compensation from the government of Pakistan. So the money that's coming to them is going to sustain terrorists. So I think this kind of cheek by jowl existence of terrorists in Pakistan is a matter of great concern. And that is why I think ex-Defense Minister Rajnath Singh spoke like that when he was in Srinagar and said, we have to look at it. Should we ask the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, to look into it? What should we do to have control over these kind of,
Very important, madam, because, we have said that this is not going to be business as usual with Pakistan. But if you look at the world, Mr. Rana, I'll draw you in here. The world is saying it's going to be business as usual with Pakistan. But there shouldn't be business as usual with Pakistan by what they have done. I mean to say the global outlook towards Pakistan should also change.
Absolutely, Kartikeya. I think in this regard, PM's messaging and now the defense minister's messaging has been very clear. That's in the first place. I told you that this is actually not so much meant for Pakistan as it is for the global audience. That listen, enough is enough. We are not taking any more this nuclear threat seriously, and it is high time that the global outlook towards Pakistan has to change. While they can give a threat of a nuclear weapon, but it is difficult to use. But our worry is not these traditional nuclear weapons that we are talking about, the stockpile that you are indicating on your screen. We are talking about the dirty material that is going to likely to go or could go to the terrorists for their small dirty bombs, which could create at a much lesser scale, but nevertheless it is a high possibility, and that is what the world actually has to think of. That then there are, other than these, then there are tactical nukes which again have got a very limited area of impact. And Putin and from the Ukraine side.
Sir, that's a very important point you have made. Mr. Jha, this whole issue of battlefield tactical nuclear weapons, okay, every big nuclear power has it. But there is a chain of command which comes into play. There have been reports that these weapons in Pakistani army have been passed out to very junior officers at the level of colonel. How big is this threat?
Yes, it is a big threat. But then the question arises that why are you now subdividing the entire thing? Why there is a good terrorist, bad terrorist, or good nuclear weapon, bad nuclear weapon? No, nothing doing. Think of the first nuclear weapon used in the world. It is strategic. It has got the very high significance. Suppose if the tactical weapon knocks out your one forward base, which is vital to you, you will keep on waiting now that, okay, let me now make another tactical weapon, or world will say that, okay, respond tactical with tactical. Will you go for that? No, sir, you don't go for that. Your nuclear thing is to be used in the extreme circumstances. And then don't tell me that it is a dirty bomb that we have used, or this is the tactical bomb I have used. I have used only 1 kiloton power. Nothing doing. If there is one nuclear attack on India, any part of India, whether it is civilian or military, there should be a credible retaliatory attack with which Pakistan doesn't exist. Remember, Pakistan is a rogue state. If you leave him, it will strike back you with another 10 or 20 that it has made. So don't give him that opportunity. And this was the basic mandate of with the nuclear doctrine that I was trying to raise this. No. Make that statement very clear in your nuclear doctrine. Pakistan will not utter that N word in the future.
Okay.
That's what I said. When you stand like a mountain, the winds will change direction and so on.
I know, sir. The point you are trying to make is the nuclear posture should change. Ambassador Sikri, you saw the history being written and made in front of you in Simla. Your views are known that the accord which was signed did not benefit us. My question to you, madam, is, after the Simla Accord, the peace we had lasted for 14 years, 71 to 1984, 85 or 86, 15 years. Deterrence of 15, 16 years. Operation Sindoor has created a new normal. How long do you think this deterrence can last? Or do we need to continuously engage in some form of deterrence with Pakistan? Your thoughts, madam?
I think the deterrence is going to continue because, as Prime Minister said very clearly, that this is not a ceasefire, this is not a Yudh Viram. This is just, stagit kiya gaya hai. It's being temporarily paused to see what will happen. So I think the level of deterrence, the level of awareness has risen enormously in India after 22nd of April, after the attacks on the innocent tourists. And I think that this whole stance, the new normal that Prime Minister Modi spoke about, that terror and trade will not go together. terror and talks will not go together, and blood and water will not flow together. So I mean, the Indus Water Treaty and the other posturing on the other statement of preparedness on the nuclear front, that's going to remain at a very high level. I don't think you can maintain a high level for a long time, but you can maintain an SOP, a standard operating procedure, which allows for a perpetual vigilance. And I think this is what we have to have, because as our colleagues have said quite rightly, Pakistan is a state sponsor of terror. They're living cheek by jowl with terrorists. And they're compensating terrorists if they're getting hit by India. So, I mean, what more could you have to show that this is a highly volatile situation, and the Pakistan government could at any time, we do know that the risk of use of tactical nuclear weapons was very high this time. And possibly in response to some information that such tactical nuclear weapons were about to be used on the early morning of 10th of May, night of 9th of May, morning of 10th of May, we attacked their air bases. The aircraft would not take off.
Even at the height of Kargil, Madam, the word rogue state was not used by Vajpayee administration, even at the height of Kargil. What has happened in last couple of years that we have decided to change the reference points?
Are you asking me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I think the 2008 attack in Mumbai, this was very serious. I mean, I think this was a situation where you saw the whole nation in shock. We lost a lot of people, and and we actually had arrested a person, Kasab, who was from Pakistan. So the connection could not have been clearer. But after that, again, we did not take action, and there's been, as you know, a lot of debate. But I think it was very wrong that action should have been taken. We had to wait further till 2016, and then 2019. So only then, after Prime Minister Modi came to power, this absolute clear-cut response that we are not going to leave any attack unresponded. We're not going to have any attack for which there's no response. We're going to be ready for the response, and we're going to give it unequivocally. So you had the surgical strike, you had an attack on Balakot, and with absolutely clear cut. But now I think whether the attack on the innocent tourists, I think that this was something planned by the Pakistanis more for their own internal consumption, because Asim Munir seemed to be facing a situation where his popularity with the people of Pakistan is going down, and people there have less and less appetite for continued military dictatorship. So the question that the Pakistan army is one step back and there's a political government in front, even that didn't work, because when Imran Khan took over, then even he was removed.
Okay.
And now you have somebody coming in. So I think the volatility of the situation in Pakistan is going up very seriously, directly proportional to their absolutely dismal economic situation. But the thing is that the IMF keeps giving them money. So I think we have to really mount also an international campaign on this. And I think this is linked to what Defense Minister said about the IAEA.
We have to choke the funds. We have to choke the funds. We need to choke the funds. A quick comment from Mr. Rana and then to Mr. Jha. Mr. Rana, does it mean more nuclear bombs in subcontinent, sir?
Pakistan has been at the helm of proliferation of this technology to, Korea, Iran, and many other things like you brought out.
The graphic is running that, sir. The graphic is running that. The dubious program of Mr. Khan, who sold, smuggled, provided weapons to Libya, Gaddafi, North Korea.
That's precisely what I was referring to when I'm talking about dirty bombs. It need not be a high-end technology that has to be landed up with the countries. But with all these terrorists, this kind of technology landing up in their hand as small material, that's going to create as much havoc. And like Group Captain Jha said, should we wait? Should we say that, okay, this is a tactical weapon or this is a dirty nuclear weapon, so my response, can it be graduated? No. So the moment there is anything that has to do with the nuclear, then I think our response has to be whole hog, and this has to be known to the world. I think we have shown the resolve of our country that hereinafter we are not taking nuclear threat anymore, and we will respond very, very heavily.
Absolutely.
A country which has responded, for 26 innocent civilians being killed in this manner and taken absolutely war to the doorstep of the enemy and deep in his heart. I think we can, the moment there is any sense of any nuclear this thing be used, I think we can go and just go whole hog and make sure that the Pakistan doesn't rise from that attack thereafter.
Okay, Mr. Jha.
I think communicating this is more important, and I think that is what right now
I agree with you.
Channeling is being done.
Constant and strong communication. Your closing comments, Mr. Jha?
Kartikeya, I think this is the time we should stop living in the lopsided world. Look, did the world look at Pakistan when it exploded the bomb 7 days after India had carried out nuclear test? Who in the world can think that in 7 days you will develop that technology? I'm a specialist in the nuclear arsenal. I've done that course in the Indian Air Force. I know what sort of preparations take, what sort of technology it takes. But Pakistan did that and the entire world remained mum. No one spoke. No one asked Pakistan a question as to how the hell in this 7 days you have got the weapon technology to the weapon grade and you could explode it too. No, they have not asked. Even now, when there is a danger, great danger of the weapons falling into the jihadist hand, because Pakistan is at the verge of disintegration. But world is not concerned about it. And look at those stupid UN and UNSC and UNHRC. They will not take any step. You suggest anything. If it is in the interest of Pakistan, China will come and that will put the veto there. You will not march ahead. That's what I was suggesting, that start the action here in your home. It may be a very small step, but in the coming days, it will go. And also, please, for God's sake, make a doctrine, make a policy so that tomorrow Modi may not remain. Any other government is there, they will know what to do under such circumstances, because it doesn't give you time.
Okay.
When that first strike happens, you don't have time even to breathe. It has to be reactive.
Okay. Point taken. I think it's a very strong point being made by you. Thank you all of you for joining me. But there's a second on point. And the second on point is on Pakistan's big U-turn on the Indus Water Treaty. Even as India declares it will keep the treaty in abeyance, still Pakistan keeps backing terror. Now, the days after, India said it was placing the 1960 Indus Water Treaty in abeyance following the terror attack in Pahalgam. Islamabad, for the first time, signaled its willingness to discuss Delhi's concern. Pakistan's offer to discuss India's objection is a huge policy departure. 2 prior notices were sent requesting modification to the treaty. Pakistan did not respond to the notices in 23 and 24. Pak indicated its willingness only after India suspended IWT. India wants to build dams for power generation. Pak wants to stall India's plan as it wants some sort of a leeway on this. Pak